Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Arif Rahman. I'm software developer in one of the startup in Singapore. So if you tune in to my video here, you'll be wondering like, okay, how do I become a software developer in Singapore? So tune in. Alright guys, welcome back. So before we talk about how I became a software developer here in Singapore, let me share you my background story. So I don't come from a computer science background student. So basically I'm a dropout student earlier stages when I was in a secondary school. I started off like a lot of various jobs, odd jobs, many industries out there. So just give you a quick summary is that okay, so when I drop off I started as a barber. Along the way I feel a bit stagnant, so I try to jump here and there in different industry. So let's name it, so I was a croupier in Marina Bay Sands Casino for a couple of years. The last job before I became a software developer was I was a driver, a private hire driver. So I was working for Uber / Grab, blah blah blah, throughout that past 2 to 3 years. So few of the motivation why I want to become a software developer. So like one, I had a friend of mine who was a software developer back currently, and back then he was a student working together with me as a barber. And then he mentioned about like, okay, like a lot of people can start doing programming, coding and all, right? So yeah, I did give my shot. And then second, it was like I was looking at like a lot of influencer channel, like one of them will be Chris Sean, amazing YouTuber here. He did mention about his pain and struggle, how he was not in a non-tech background and then he became a developer. And then like I can see also a lot of videos, I think if not mistaken, like code.org mentioning like everybody can actually start coding, programming. So yeah, that's like one of the factor. And then I would say the interesting part, when I was a driver, I met this guy. He's a technician. He basically is my passenger while I was driving as a driver Uber. He did mention that he was a technician. He had a friend of him who went to this boot camp here in Singapore. I will let you know about the boot camp later on. But he did mention that he has almost have the same background as me, somewhere around O level, and then he went to this boot camp, and then obviously after he graduated, because he was so passionate and dedicated, he became a software developer in DBS itself. That's like, oh my god, like if that guy can do it, like why can't I do it? So yeah, thanks to the recommendation of the passenger regarding the boot camp his friend took before he became a software developer. So the boot camp is called General Assembly. So they have like a couple of tech related courses like software engineer, UX, data science, etc, etc. So like I think if I remember correctly, back then it was called Web Development Immersive. Right now it's called Software Engineering. So some of the courses that you can learn from here is basically like the fundamental of like web development over here. So like from how do you learn how to write codes in the front end, basically the client, a web browser, it could be a phone, it could be a tablet, what you are looking on your particular device. It could be the course also teaches you about like backend, how do you handle the logic part of at the business side, or then they talk about like managing collection in databases. It teaches you like NoSQL, SQL databases. So yeah, there's a good news for Singaporean. The course itself is pretty pricey in my opinion, but the good news is that as a Singaporean, you can take a grant from this program called Tech Skill Accelerator. So what it does is basically for all those courses, all those program outside there related to ICT, you can actually apply for the Skills Future TESA program, where they, if not mistaken, give you somewhere around 60 to 70% of grant. But do take note that once you apply for this grant, you need to basically, once you graduate from the program or the course that you taken, you need to get a job within 6 months. So after researching, about the course and then about the TESOL program, the grant, I actually applied for the course itself. So if I remember correctly, the first thing that what the bootcamp does is it will give you assignment. No, you have to go for an interview first in General Assembly, and then they will give you an assignment. And based on the assignment itself, to see the capability of you understanding how you can start coding. So it's, to be honest, it's basically quite basic, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There's a lot of resources out there to give you a head start to know how to code more or less in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So after I think 1 or 2 weeks, I get a call from them again and saying that, hey Arif, you're approved. And then I started the course in General Assembly. So I was excited to finally get to enroll in General Assembly. I'm gonna share you my pain, my struggle, and then my achievement in General Assembly courses. So the first 2 weeks, I would say it's pretty much crazy for me, because I haven't been touching I haven't been touching into education for quite some time. So during the course of the first 2 weeks, is basically they teaches you like the fundamental languages like HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript. What I would say is basically it's pretty interesting for me is that the first week I have no idea what I was learning, and then the second week, in the middle of the second week, I was actually starting to build something. So how General Assembly courses does is basically they have like module, I would say, every 2 weeks. The first week you learn something, while learning you start programming, and then by the end of the second week you have to build basically a project, a portfolio per se, what you're gonna do. So my first ever module was basically a game I created called what was it? Oh yeah, it's a so-called Flappy Bird / Nyan Cat in the browser, web browser itself. And I can tell you it's pretty interesting. Try to figure out on how to build that game, and it's like as the project basis, the module itself, every 2 weeks start building projects after project after project, up and down. I have doubt myself again, like I mentioned. And I was at the point of a time where I told myself, I told my family, my wife, I say, do you think I can do it? And what my wife says, like, you have to give it a shot, because you sold your PC just to get enrolled in General Assembly. And man, I can tell you that's my hobby, having a PC of my dream, and then I have to sold it. It was like the most crazy moment of my life, I would say. Thanks to my wife's advice and to amazing instructor there in General Assembly, I told him like what I'm feeling, and he told me like, hey Arif, like throughout my experience, there's a lot of people who coming from your kind of background story is you pretty much struggle at the first moment, but why I feel so down is because I was comparing myself with others. Like, hey, someone is doing pretty good in the first module. I would say like, hey, they are doing pretty good. I was like lagging off, right? But what he mentioned towards me is that you shouldn't be basically focusing on others, but you should be basically focusing on yourself, your progression, right? You're not competing with any other. That courses itself is not about competition and all, but it's all about like what progression have you made along the way during the program. So pretty much, like, I would say that sum it up for me, and that motivation, the kind of advice I get from like my wife, my friends, from thanks to the instructor over there, then I keep like going on. One thing that General Assembly helped is that once you graduated, they will give you a so-called a job fair, internal job fair. So they will call like all those startups, all those companies who are looking for a fresh graduate from General Assembly itself to get a job. Hey guys, I will be sharing you regarding my experience in job interviews in the tech industry. So when I graduated from General Assembly, I applied like, I don't know, 20-30 job out there, and then the process was pretty grueling for me, to be honest. So it's I would say it's like they different company had a different kind of interviewing process. Some have whiteboard interview, some have basically culture fit interview, some have both, and then some have grueling technical assignment and all. So throughout the process, it was pretty crazy, I would say. So one of the assignment that I had was actually building a basic to-do list on the React. We covered a lot of front-end framework, back-end technology, but we wasn't really focused on a specific I would say library per se. So like what I can see the pattern, especially in my opinion, is that if you want to get a job, what I can recommend you is taking a look at a lot of like job portals out there. Look at like the most high demand job available. And I remember back then knowing React.js library technology was pretty high in demand. So I basically just start grueling learning, start building project after project on my own portfolio, which is inside my GitHub. So one of the interesting is that interview that I had with my first company as a software developer is that on the if I remember correctly, was on the Friday. So I went to this interview in the morning. We were talking about what they were doing, what I wanted to do, and we were basically interviewing each other about like how we can be cultural fit in the company, right? And then after that interview process about like cultural fit, I had this technical interview with one of the tech lead back then in my first company, which is called Indoors. And after the grueling session of interview with the tech lead, at the evening I get an offer, and I can tell you, oh my god, during that process when I get the offer itself, where the package that I wanted is pretty amazing. It was around 7 months since I started the course in General Assembly, and then I get my job. So it was around 7 months in total. So the 4 month of process of getting interview, and I was like, oh man, I get my first tech job, and it's pretty crazy, man. So yeah, I mean, one of the motivation why I want to share this video with you guys is that with the current situation of COVID-19, a lot of people are losing their job and all. One thing that I would say that there's, given the option that there is out there, if you guys want to make a career transition, hopefully this will basically inspire you guys to try probably something out of your comfort zone, or something that you guys wanted to do but not confident enough because you had this kind of mindset that, oh, being a developer or being a software engineer take a lot of, like, you have to be pretty mathematical, a genius and all. But please do not listen to that kind of stereotype. What I would say is like, if everyone can start coding, everyone can start programming, it's just whether you want to put that invest in and dedication into learning how to start programming. And it's been pretty crazy for me. Even right now at my 3 years experience as a developer, I'm still learning. I'm not kidding. It's like, it's never ending learning, and that's the reason why I love this job so much. So guys, thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please like it. If you want, subscribe it. Please help support this channel, and thank you guys.